but that's it. That's all you're doing. Do you think that that's confrontational? I do. That's about as confrontational as it gets. Speaking of the devil, there he walks in. Jonathan, you're welcome to talk in RINO Hunt. We'll actually listen, even though the lawmakers in Colombia say that you don't have a voice anymore. But that is the corruption that happens in Colombia. You can elect somebody as a representative, a duly elected representative, send them to Colombia, and your vote doesn't matter because House leadership, which is Republican, says we don't like you and we don't like your legislation. So therefore, your voters back home, the people that elected you, they don't have a voice down here. And that makes me angry. I want to ask Dave, can you come up and give us an update on H3456?
All right, how about now?
There you
All right,
go.
how are y'all doing? I'm Dave Schwartz with fan of SC Freedom Action Network of South Carolina. Thank you, Harry.
Absolutely.
In the vein of what you were talking about, rules for radicals, what I want to give you is a quick update on what Jonathan talked about last week and where this bill is. So we call it constitutional carry, but really what it is a bill that would restore our gun rights. That's really what it is. We want just them to restore the rights we already have. We don't want to ask for permission for a right that's guaranteed to us in the United States Constitution. And so real fast, I'll recap it, as I know Jonathan did last month. But basically it makes CWP optional, concealed weapon permit optional. If you want to get it, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay? I don't want to. I don't want my name on any lists. So I wouldn't. But you can if you want. The bill allows you to do that. It would legalize open carry of a handgun. I think we're one of, Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, or Jonathan, 5 states. 5 states that doesn't have open carry of handguns. By the way, 5 states, I think the 4 others are Illinois, California, New York, Florida, and Maryland.
Democrat states.
And New Jersey. There you go. But I think they all have something in common. They're pretty darn liberal.
Yeah.
They all voted for Barack Obama
Yeah.
in 2012, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Okay, so legalize open carry of handguns, and then it would recognize CWPs from every other state, which is key. And I talked to Jonathan about this before. What I really love about that is it would make South Carolina one of the freest states in the country when it comes to our gun rights, and that's why it's important to have that third part of that bill. But those are the 3 things. So beware of when these politicians talk about constitutional carry, because they can name bills whatever they want, right? It's what's in it. So when you're talking to your legislators and demanding that they pass this bill, it has to include those 3 things. So let me mention it again. Optional CWP, legalizing open carry of handguns, and recognizing CWPs from every other state. Those are the 3 things. If those 3 things are in there, then we're good. But this is about restoring our rights. It's not about a bill, and you can ask Jonathan, and he went over it last month, I'm sure. There's a lot more in that bill that crosses off or crosses out existing law, existing regulations. It's restoring a right we already have. We shouldn't have to ask permission for a constitutional right. So, what's the holdup here? And I know Harry mentioned, and Jonathan mentioned last month, I'm sure, that they just don't like the guy. Look, they don't like him. He's weird looking. You know, I'm messing with him. But they don't like him because he's the only guy down there, and I'm not afraid. He's the only guy. I know there's legislators that show up to this thing every now and again from Spartanburg and wherever else, and I don't give a damn. They ain't as good as him. He's the only guy down there that we truly can trust, particularly on this issue. He calls them out every step of the way on everything that they do, and they don't like that. That is true. But I will tell you, this bill is stuck in the Judiciary Committee in the House. And in the vein of what Harry was talking about, we're not going to get anywhere unless we start targeting these guys, right? So I'm going to give you really 2 calls to action tonight and give you the ability to do something about it. There is one person, I think, one person, in my opinion, that is stopping this bill. And it's the House Judiciary Committee Chairman, and his name is Progressive Peter McCoy. Now, Progressive Peter, he's down my way, he's in Charleston. He's on Johns Island, I believe he represents Kiowa, all those nice areas where there's big homes on the beach are. And that's Peter's district, Progressive Peter's district. Now, let me tell you a little bit of something about him, because I think it's important for y'all to know who these bad guys are, to arm you with the facts, so you know exactly what you're going up against, and exactly what you need to tell your legislator about, right? So, Progressive Peter, who is he? You must run the trains around here.
We're on the way to Folsom Prison.
So,
There's a train coming.
let's hope. There's a few Leathermans on board there.
Yeah. He's the engineer.
So, Progressive Peter, who is he? All right, a couple of things. And these are some names. All right, he's a liberal. He's progressive. He voted for the gas tax. He lied about fixing our roads, right? He helps appoint the DOT commissioners that are taking our money and throwing it elsewhere and throwing it these big projects. He's in favor of that 526 Parkway, Harry, that we talked about for a long time. This is a road, a 45-mile-per-hour parkway they want to extend on an interstate down in Charleston with bicycle lanes on the side. They want to borrow. They don't want to just take $400 million cash. They want to borrow $400 million, throw it into Hugh Leatherman's slush fund at the State Infrastructure Bank, and build this highway. It's going to cost billions to maintain it, by the way. All that while, you know, our roads are falling apart around here, right? Bridges are falling apart. Where's Seth? Where's that? What's that bridge that we do the Facebook Live on all the time? Walnut Grove Road. That bridge, literally, you go Walnut Grove Road right outside of it's Southern Spartanburg, but yeah, it's literally you go on that bridge and you can see I-26 below. The holes are so bad you can see straight through that bridge. It's going to fall apart. Somebody's going to die on that thing.
Dave, it's a shame when a legal defense for DUI in South Carolina is I wasn't drunk, I was trying to avoid the potholes.
But so McCoy voted for the gas tax, right? He voted for the gas tax. He's in favor of these pet projects. He votes for the illegal state budget every year. That budget that keeps going up and up and up and up. I think what, Harry, $8 billion over the last 10 years it's gone up?
Yeah, crazy.
Billion with a B. And he voted for the GAG Act, which was really scary. A violation. Not only does he not care about our Second Amendment rights, which I'm going to get to in a second, not only will he not hear Jonathan bill, he won't allow it out of his committee.
Right.
But he doesn't care about the First Amendment either. And he wants to shut you all up.
Yep.
That's the bottom line. That GAG Act that he voted for, it would have run RINO Hunt out of business.
Exactly.
We couldn't mention a politician. Fan of SC would not exist if they passed the GAG Act.
Right.
We can't mention a politician's name the way they wrote that bill. 30 days before an election, you mention a politician's name, I'd have to disclose all of my members to these politicians. And guess what they're going to do?
Yep.
They're going to intimidate you.
Yep.
They're going to scare you. And they're going to shut you down and shut you up.
Well,
He voted for that.
along with that, Dave, think about this. If they were to pass the red flag bill in South Carolina, if a politician doesn't like you because you said something negative about them, do you think that there might be any type of retaliation against you, maybe even including the red flag?
I would guess so.
I wouldn't put it past them. We're going to hear from somebody later tonight that was retaliated against pretty badly.
So, Progressive Peter voted for the gas tax hike. He voted for these big spending illegal state budgets. He voted to shut you down, voted for the GAG Act. He's also, by the way, again, stopping constitutional carry in his committee that he runs. He's the chairman of. He's also a co-sponsor of a gun control bill. This guy, remember, he's a Republican.
He's a Republican.
The Republican Speaker of the House, Jay Lucas, put him in this position as House Judiciary Committee Chairman, a very powerful position. He is a Republican, and he is the sole Republican co-sponsor of this gun control bill to extend wait times. Of course, the liberals call it, the progressives call it, the Charleston loophole.
Yeah.
But it's basically extending wait time. So when you go to purchase a gun, they make you wait, I think, by a minimum of 7 days is what the bill is. 7 to 10 days. I can't remember exactly what it was. Don't quote me on that one.
Right.
But it's extending the current wait time. So he is not only stopping Jonathan's bill to restore our gun rights, he's co-sponsoring a gun control bill.
Dave, can I
Progressive Peter McCoy.
Jonathan sponsored the bill, but it's not his bill.
That's
it's
true.
our bill.
That's true. It is our bill.
This is our bill. And the folks from
It's our
Anderson
rights.
County elected Jonathan Hill to send him there to sponsor legislation
That's
like
right.
this. He didn't lie about it when he ran for office.
That's right.
He told his constituents how he felt about things.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Progressive Peter's progressive. The last thing I want to tell you is that he's also corrupt. And that's really what you need to know about this guy. He was on a committee you probably never heard of, the JMSC, the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. Does anybody know what the JMSC does? Anybody? Okay. The JMSC basically selects and weeds out judicial nominees, right? So the legislature, elects our state judges. The JMSC is a very small, very, very powerful board made up of the Speaker, I believe, and the Pro Tem. Senate Pro Tem? Or is it just a...
Speaker, Pro Tem, Senate Judiciary.
The Speaker, Pro Tem, Senate Judiciary. Very small group, very powerful group, and they weed out who they don't want to become judges, right? So they basically pick the judges before it gets to the legislature. Progressive Peter McCoy sat on that committee. Well, guess what? Total coincidence, Harry. Total coincidence. Progressive Peter McCoy's wife is a state judge.
Oh, how sweet.
I mean, total coincidence, right? Now, he wasn't on the JM. He resigned from the JMSC before she got vetted. But how many people think, by a show of hands, how many here you think that Progressive Peter McCoy wasn't lobbying hard behind the scenes for his wife and making sure that they did exactly as he wanted? They eliminated her competition, and by the time she got voted for an up or down vote in that state house, she didn't even have. I don't even think she had competition. I think all of her competition was they asked them to drop out. She was unanimously appointed as judge. Progressive Peter also got his dad, and I had to go back and look at this because I wasn't sure at first. Progressive Peter's dad serves on the Citadel Board of Visitors, the Board of Trustees at the Citadel in Charleston. He voted for his dad. He voted for his own dad. It was a roll call vote, and darn it, Harry, he voted for him to be on the board of the Citadel.
Conflict of interest.
No conflict of interest, by the way. By the way, his uncle, who was a Democrat state senator, a guy named Creighton Coleman, he also voted for his brother-in-law, Progressive Peter's daddy, to be on the Citadel board. No conflict of interest. I mean, I guess just the family has no problem with conflicts of interest. Unbelievable. So, last thing too about Progressive Peter, and I bring this up because it shows that folks that maybe have a little more of a discerning eye on competence. So, right after President Trump got elected, the president appoints the U.S. attorney here. And the U.S. attorney is the federal highest law enforcement officer in the state. They prosecute federal crimes here, right? It's kind of like the attorney general, right, in a way of the federal level. It's the U.S. attorney here in South Carolina. And man, Progressive Peter lobbied hard for that job behind the scenes. He wanted that job bad. In fact, there was a newspaper article written about he was the favorite to get that job. Well, needless to say, Progressive Peter is still in the legislature. The president did not give him the U.S. attorney job. Yeah. And there's probably good reason for that. I don't know exactly why he didn't get it, but he didn't get it. He wasn't, I guess the president just didn't find him qualified. So, this is the guy, right, that's holding up our rights. This is the guy that's blocking our gun rights from being restored. This is the guy that is basically saying, I don't care about shall not be infringed. I'm the House Judiciary Committee chairman, and it's got to go through me, and guess what? It ain't going through me. So, what are we going to do about it? If you live, how many people live in Charleston? How many people live in Progressive Peter McCoy's district? Okay, I didn't think so. So, he doesn't care about necessarily what we think, but I'll tell you what he does care about. He's the leader. He's a leader in that state house. The speaker put him there, personally put him there on the Judiciary Committee chairman. So what can we do here in Greer to affect progressive Peter McCoy? I'll tell you what we can do. As Harry was saying, confrontational politics, right? You need to hold your state legislator accountable for progressive Peter McCoy's bad behavior, right? You need to hold your state legislator. Who's your state legislator? Miss Rita. Okay, Miss Rita needs to be held accountable for progressive Peter McCoy holding up that constitutional carry bill. Who's your state legislator? Miss Rita. How about you? Who? Bill Chumley? Okay, Bill Chumley needs to be held accountable. And I'm not kidding when I say this. You need to call Bill Chumley. You need to call Miss Rita. You need to call Gary Smith. And you need to tell him. You need to say, hey guys, Gary, I hear you're a nice guy and all. Miss Rita, very nice lady. But guess what? I know about progressive Peter McCoy. I know he's your Judiciary Committee chairman. I don't care. I've had enough. I'm holding you accountable every single day that he does not hold a hearing or pass that bill out of that committee. That's the only way that bill's going to get out. Y'all, that's the only way. And look, we can write Peter McCoy. I did. I sent him an email. I sent him a nasty gram.
I called it.
I said, look, y'all, Peter, progressive Peter, I know you don't want this bill through. But he doesn't care. I live on the other side of Charleston. I don't live in this district. So he didn't care about Maine, really. But I'll tell you what he did care about. When he gets a bunch of emails that say, hey, I'm holding my guy, I'm holding Miss Rita, I'm holding Bill Chumley accountable for you holding up that bill. He does care about that. Because the guy, number one, he's ambitious as hell.
Yep.
And number two, he's a leader in the Republican Party. And when you guys start holding them accountable, your individual members, for the leadership's bad behavior, guess what? Those bills start getting through. Because they're going to be worried about losing individual members. They're going to be worried about primaries coming up next year. So that is the bottom line. You have got to hold your legislators for progressive Peters holding up that bill. And you can do that real fast. Pull out your phones. I told you I was going to give you a call to action. Everybody pull out their cell phone. Come on. I know. I'll pull out mine. Here we
While
go.
they're getting their phones out, how many people in here served in the armed forces? Not surprising.
Thank you for your service.
When you were going through basic boot camp, whatever, if somebody in your platoon screwed up, how many people in your platoon paid for their mistake?
Everybody.
How many people paid for their mistake?
Everybody.
I can't hear you.
And here, for those of us that didn't serve, if you watch the opening scene of Full Metal Jacket,
Yes.
you get a good glimpse as to what that looks like,
Yeah,
right?
I always think of Gomer Pyle, USMC, but I would have hated to have been in that guy's platoon. All right, but the same principle is what we're talking
That's
about.
exactly what we're talking about.
When the majority of the people are not screwing up, the ones that are screwing up will be held accountable by
That's
the
right.
ones that are doing the right thing or attempting to do the right
That's
thing.
exactly right.
And if your representative is not attempting to do the right thing, you've got the wrong representative.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So pull out your phones, text a word to the number 52886. Now, if y'all listen to Bob McClain, you know I do this every week. 52886 is the number. 52886. Text the word carry. Now, C-A-R-R-Y is in constitutional. Carry, C-A-R-R-Y to 52886. Now, normally, you go through it and you send an email. I want you to put it in, and I want you to save the link. And what I want you to do is tomorrow morning, click on that link, and it will send a call to your state house member and, no, not to Progressive Peter, okay, just to your state house member. And I want you to send them the message saying, I'm going to, Bill Chumley, I'm going to hold you accountable for every single day that H3456 sits in that Progressive Peter McCoy's committee. I'm going to hold you accountable for it because I'm done. I'm holding you accountable for his bad behavior. Y'all, that's the only way. And it's not just our gun rights. It's everything else. These guys get away with what they get away with because the leadership allows them to. They give cover to the leadership. This is the only way we can break that barrier. This is the only way we're going to restore our rights.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many people are willing to do that? Is that too confrontational for anybody? No.
Call them up and tell them, I'm holding you accountable for progressive Peter McCoy. And to call him progressive, by the way,
Yeah.
damn, it's how we call these people for what they are.
Yeah.
That guy's progressive.
Yeah.
That's a progressive
He's a
voting record I just
full-fledged
wrote
little
off.
gun grabber.
He's corrupt, but he's progressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate your time. Yep.
It don't matter. Go ahead.
All right, real fast.
I finally got a hold of and was put through to actually Miss Rita's secretary. And I know a lot of times y'all send out the emails and say copy, it says copy and paste or whatever. And Miss Ginger told me that all those folks that through her end, all those ones that are coming through the same thing are going into a spam folder. So if you don't want it going into a spam folder, you need to create your own email and say, they are my constituents, because I asked her, Miss Rita, how to send me WR, have armed security and all that stuff that they didn't answer.
Well,
But they said if it doesn't have that on there, it's going into a spam folder every time.
yeah. And by the way, that's pretty sad that your representative would throw your email into spam.
I bet you they don't put the Chamber of Commerce emails in their spam folder.
When the CEO of BMW or Boeing
Yeah.
calls, I bet it does not go
I
into
bet when the
spam
South
folder.
Carolina Teachers Association emails,
Yeah.
they don't put those in the spam folder. And, I had a similar experience with a lawmaker, and it told me, and it happened to be our Attorney General, by the way, that doesn't enforce the law in South Carolina, but said that they were going to go to a spam folder. And I said, and I will be reminding people that you're going to send their communications to the spam folder every day that I have an opportunity up until you go running for re-election. Folks, that's what they think of us. They don't have a problem reducing your lifestyle by taking more of your money. But how dare you speak up and try to communicate to them how you feel about an issue? That's confrontational. What they just told that lady in the back, we're going to put it in the spam folder. I don't want to hear from you. It's confrontational.
It is. That's right.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, y'all. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
All right, I'd like to get Seth Powell, please, come up, and we're going to continue the conversation about confrontational politics. There is a... you got the wireless? Can we bum that from you?